In this video we are going to see about forms of crime based on the topic organized crime. Structure of organized crime. At the top of the family is the boss. Beneath the boss is a counselor and an underboss. Beneath the underboss are the lieutenants. Below the lieutenants, membership in the family entitles the member to run his own rackets using the family's connections and status. Corporate model, a formal hierarchy in which the day-to-day activities of the organization are planned and coordinated at the top and carried out by subordinates. The feudal model of the Elsian, La Cosa Nostra, commonly referred to as the mafia, views it as a loose connection of criminal groups held together by kinship and patronage.
In Sicily, Italy, was relentless. At times, those mobsters could be cruel, brutal. So at home, with violence and killing, you might think the majority of the members had a bad case of psychotic. Thousands is an exaggeration, but let's just say he didn't shy away from an assassination. His name was Albert Anastasia, and although he might have had quite a beautiful surname, on the street he was sometimes called the Mad Hatter or the Lord High Executioner due to his murderous temper and remarkable body count. He became one of the bosses in a contract-killing outfit we mentioned in our last Mafia show. That outfit was simply called Murder Inc., so you couldn't say there was much confusion regarding what their line of business was. After the Gambino family boss was murdered, this guy Anastasia became a boss himself. It's widely believed that he actually ordered the hit, but you've all heard that expression, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And the Mad Hatter didn't just lose the crown, but he almost lost his head. In October of 1957, he went to get a haircut and a shave, and it didn't end well. Men walked into the barber's and opened fire while he was in a chair. He then jumped from the chair and went for the men, but they just kept firing until his body was riddled with bullets. You can actually see the aftermath photo online. A certified psycho. If you've seen that photo we just talked about, the one taken after the murder of mob boss Carmine Galante is far worse. The body looks like it's been clawed at by zombies. When alive, he was described as having dead eyes, of being so cold you could barely look at him. In fact, one of the detectives that investigated mafia bosses once said the only mobster ever to scare him was this guy. With good reason too, because he felt not even a pang of guilt hurting or killing people. In fact, he enjoyed it. When he was in prison in 1931, a psychologist diagnosed him with having psychopathic personality disorder. So that explains a lot. Standing at just 5 feet 5 inches, he might have also had little man syndrome. In 1974, after a boss was sent to prison, Galante became the boss himself. The thing was, this wasn't approved by the round table of bosses called the Commission. They took umbrage with the guy just planting himself in the big chair and weren't too keen on him trying to control the business of narcotics and not sharing the winnings with the 5 families. Suffice to say, when you rankle the bosses, there is usually a debt to pay. That debt is usually your life. In 1979, Galante was having a bite to eat at a place called Joe and Mary's Italian-American restaurant in Brooklyn. He didn't finish that meal and was gunned down. If you look closely at the aftermath photo, you can see a cigar in his mouth.
Crime done by large organizations rather than any one individual. Usually done to maximize the profit of organization. General public, employee and other organizations can be victimized by this kind of crime. Crime against general public, price fixing, sale of unsafe product and polluting the environment. Punishment in case in our nation is generally limited to certain fines, so it is very difficult to minimize these types of crime. Corporate crime. Street crime. This is the crime happening on the base of streets and highways. When people, politicians, and media talk about crime, then it is called street crime. Street crime are highly happen in underdeveloped and developing nations rather than developed nation, but in some highly advanced nations street crime is also at high rate. These type of crime can be profession of people due to poverty, low education, low status in society, so people involved in these type of crime are usually from low status and low economic family. Street crime. Divided into two parts: violent crime, murder, rape, robbery, etc. Property crime, motor vehicle theft, burglary theft, larceny theft. Political crime, mostly happening crime in depth. Environmental crime covers acts that breach environmental legislation and cause significant harm or risk to the environment and human health. But they provide very high profits for perpetrators and relatively low risks of detection. Very often, environmental crimes have a cross-border aspect. Environmental crime is a serious and growing problem and needs to be tackled. Environmental crimes. Definition of environment. Environment is broad and is problematic to define. Einstein defined it as everything else around you except yourself. The illegal emission or discharge of substances into air, water or soil. Illegal logging and transportation of timber. Illegal trade in wildlife. Illicit trade in plants and animals. Common areas of environmental crime are illegal fishing, illegal trade in ozone-depleting substances and the illegal shipment or dumping of waste, and, in addition to these clear and present crimes, new types of environmental crime are emerging, such as carbon trade and water management crime.
Thank you for your support. Keep watching and subscribe now to stay update only on 2D Media. Future criminologist Kuthakudi follows on FB, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn.